A Place for Peace. Letting Go Shouldn't Be a Crime by Steph Wynn. Disclaimer. This book is a work of fiction written in a nonfiction voice. It is not a recommendation, medical directive, or encouragement for self-harm. It is a reflection on pain, on autonomy, and on the quiet thoughts many people live with but are never allowed to say out loud. If you find this book unsettling, uncomfortable, or disagree with its message, that's okay. You are entitled to your beliefs. So are the people who feel differently. This book is not anti-life. It's pro-choice about how life ends. It was written for the unheard, not to silence others. If you are struggling, reach out. If you believe in holding on, hold on. But if you cannot understand why someone might want peace more than persistence, this book may not be for you. That doesn't make either of us wrong. It just means we're standing in different parts of the storm. Introduction: A Quiet Truth. My life is okay. I earn money, I pay low rent, I have a great spouse, I laugh, I function, I get through the days, and most people would look at my life and say, "You're lucky." And maybe I am. But when the day comes, and it might, I want the option to say, I'm done. Not in pain, not in chaos, just done. Not because I hate life, but because I want the power to decide when I've had enough of it. This book isn't a cry for help. It's not a suicide note. It's a mirror for those of us who walk through life smiling while carrying weights no one else can see. It's for the people who aren't in crisis, but don't want to die screaming in a hospital alone and afraid. It's for those who've lived through layoffs, loss, trauma, quiet breakdowns, chronic illness, and systems that never cared if they made it. It's for people like me who just want a soft ending. I don't want a doctor to get in trouble for making it painless. I don't want to break a law just to find peace. I don't want religion wrapped around my neck like a noose, whispering salvation when I already made peace with my soul. When I want to go, I want to go. No lectures, no guilt, no shame. I want to choose how I exit this world just like I chose how I lived in it on my terms. Is that a crime? Because if it is, then we've built a world that punishes peace and rewards pain. And I don't think that's the world we're supposed to protect. This book is fiction, but for some of us, it reads like truth. It's a future that could exist and maybe should. A place for peace, not because we've given up, but because we've earned the right to let go. Gently, on purpose, without apology. Chapter 1: The Debt That Won't Die. There's a kind of weight money can carry that has nothing to do with how much it is. It's the weight of knowing you'll never be free. Let's be honest. This chapter isn't for people with budgets in balance. It's for the ones who've done the math and still come up short. The ones staring at the red numbers every month, wondering which bill gets skipped so the lights stay on. The ones who stopped answering unknown numbers because they know what's on the other end. A stranger with a headset and a script asking for money that doesn't exist. We don't talk about them. We talk about the economy, about GDP, about growth. But we don't talk about how a single late fee can multiply like a virus, or how a missed payment becomes a collection, then a judgment, then a lien, then a sentence. Debt doesn't just follow you. It redefines you. It decides your housing, your food, whether you can get medication, transportation, or a second chance. And it doesn't die when you do, not always. Some people pass it to their children, a legal inheritance of failure. So when Places for Peace opened their doors, it didn't surprise anyone that some of the earliest visitors were those with nothing left to lose, except the crushing burden of owing more than their lives were worth on paper. There's no shame in that, there's clarity. No counseling session or motivational podcast is going to erase years of compounded interest and minimum payments. No get-rich-slowly blog reaches the mother trying to choose between insulin and rent. No wealth mindset guru speaks to the man hiding his car in another zip code so it doesn't get repossessed. They are not lazy, they are not broken, they are simply tired. And in a world that sells every second of your time, every ounce of your effort, and still calls you non-essential, some people look at the option of peace and say, quietly, finally, a way out that doesn't involve running. A Place for Peace doesn't ask for your credit report. It doesn't charge a fee. It doesn't evaluate your net worth. You're not a risk. You're not an account. You're a person. And for the first time, someone lets you decide how your story ends. This chapter is about debt, but not just the financial kind. It's about the emotional mortgage too. The kind where hope was foreclosed long ago and dignity is the last thing left in the drawer. It's okay to choose peace. You're not giving up. You're not weak. You're just tired of carrying something you never should have had to. And if you've made it this far reading this book, you should know you're not alone. And in this world, you get to choose. Chapter 2: Eviction Notices and Expired Hope. It's hard to dream when the ground keeps shifting beneath you. It's hard to plan for the future when your front door might not be yours next month. Some people think homelessness happens all at once, that you just wake up one day on the street. But that's not how it works. It starts with the letter taped to the door, the one you stare at for a full minute before touching it. The red stamp, the date, the math. You already knew the rent was too high, over half your paycheck if you had a paycheck. Some months you float it with credit cards, side gigs, favors. But eventually, the current pulls too strong. The landlord doesn't care about your late night grind. They want their cut. So you move again. Smaller space, sketchier neighborhood, shared bathrooms, mold you pretend not to see. You pray your car holds up because that's plan B. You stop buying furniture, stop unpacking, start thinking in 30-day increments. Eventually, it's not just housing that gets unstable, it's your belief that you're allowed to exist somewhere without fighting for it. By the time you hear about a place for peace, you're not shocked, you're curious. Because you've been losing your home, piece by piece, for years. Your address may change, but the feeling doesn't. You're in someone else's way. So when someone offers a final place to rest, a room with no lease, no locks, no one to evict you, you pause. Not because it's extreme, but because for the first time, the door is open for you, not against you. This chapter isn't about giving up, it's about being pushed out too many times. It's about the weight of bags that never get fully unpacked, the clothes you keep folded just in case, the mental map of emergency exits you draw every time you enter a room. Housing is supposed to be a right, but it became a product, a prize, a fight. And in that fight, some people just want peace. So they step through a different door, and this time it doesn't close behind them. Chapter 3: Your job has been automated. You weren't fired. You were quietly replaced by something faster, cheaper, and tireless. And no one said goodbye. They don't call it unemployment anymore. They call it economic realignment. It used to be you'd lose a job because business was slow. Now you lose it because the system upgraded and you didn't. No warning, no severance. Just an update pushed at midnight and your login no longer works. The screen doesn't say you're terminated, it says your skill set is no longer required. At first it was factory workers, then call centers, then data entry, then creative fields. Now it's therapists, teachers, truck drivers, paralegals, analysts, even sales reps. Every week a new tool drops, a new app, a new AI. Every time someone says it's just to help people, but people don't feel helped, they feel replaced. You don't get a pink slip, you get silence. And suddenly your degree doesn't matter, your experience doesn't matter. The years you gave, the family you fed, the plans you had, they're all less efficient than a few lines of code. You retrain, reboot, rebrand. You attend webinars that feel like group therapy for the soon-to-be irrelevant. You post on LinkedIn like a ghost trying to be seen, but the door doesn't open again. And when you hear about a place for peace, it doesn't sound like tragedy. It sounds like control. One last decision you get to make, not based on metrics or market value, but on whether or not you still recognize yourself in the mirror. This chapter is for the ones who kept showing up, the ones who stayed late, trained others, built systems, answered phones, memorized scripts, sold the dream, and woke up one day to find the dream had logged off. No bitterness, no rage, just the quiet realization that the world moved on. And you get to decide if you want to follow it or step away from it entirely. Some will fight to the end, some will adapt, and some quietly and without apology will say, I'm done. And that's okay. Chapter 4: The pain won't go away. Some pain sits in the bones, some live in the wallet, some wake you up at 3 a.m. and dares you to keep going. Not all pain can be cured. That's the part no one wants to say out loud, because we live in a world that markets solutions. Every scroll, every ad promises a fix, a supplement, a therapy, a guru, a pill, a product, a mindset. But some people aren't being negative. They're just being honest. The pain hasn't gone away. Not after years. Not after doctors, not after treatments. It just sits there, dull or sharp, dragging the days down with it. For some, it's physical back pain that makes breathing hard, nerve damage that burns without fire, migraines that last days, disorders with names that insurance refuses to recognize. For others, it's mental, or emotional, or financial. It's the ache of trying to smile through exhaustion, the numbness that comes from pretending everything's okay, the pain of watching your kids want things you can't afford, the shame of buying groceries with change. Pain changes you, not all at once, but in tiny ways. You stop making plans. You stop calling friends. You stop hoping it'll get better. You stop. And when you hear about a place for peace, you don't run toward it. You walk slowly, carefully, because you've lived like this for so long. You know how to carry pain, but that doesn't mean you should have to. This chapter isn't about suicide. It's about being heard. It's about someone finally saying, I believe you. You've tried. You've fought. You're tired. It's about giving people the dignity to decide when they've carried enough. You don't owe the world your suffering. And if your pain won't leave you, it's okay to leave the pain. That's not weakness. That's not giving up. That's release. And for some, that's the kindest thing they've ever been offered. Chapter 5. They said it gets better, but what if it doesn't? What if this is as good as it gets, and you've already given it everything you had? From the moment you're old enough to cry, someone starts selling you the future. It gets better, they say. They say it when you're a teenager, drowning in school and hormones and trying to matter. They say it in your 20s when rent eats half your check and friendships get filtered. They say it when you're single, struggling, stuck, confused. They say it when you hit rock bottom. They say it so much that you start saying it too, even when you don't believe it. But what happens when you hit 30 or 40 or 50 and it hasn't? When you're still fighting the same battles in a different decade? When every win is followed by 3 losses? When the finish line keeps moving and no one's handing out medals anymore? This chapter is for the people who waited for better, who took the meds, did the therapy, held on, held in, kept showing up, who made the gratitude lists, read the books, practiced breathing, smile for the photos, said, I'm fine, like it was a job. But deep down, they knew maybe not all of us get the sunrise. Maybe for some, the night just stretches out. And when someone hears about a place for peace, it doesn't sound like defeat. It sounds like closure. It sounds like a soft ending in a world full of sharp corners. This chapter isn't bitter. It's not angry. It's just real. Because the truth is, better is not guaranteed. It's not a right. And it's not your fault if it didn't arrive. You waited, you tried, you hoped. And if you're ready to stop waiting, that doesn't make you weak. It makes you honest. And honesty, in this world, might be the bravest thing of all. Chapter 6. I'm tired of starting over. There's only so many times you can rebuild before you stop looking for the hammer. People love a comeback story. They cheer when you rise from the ashes once, maybe twice. But they stop clapping the 5th time you lose everything. And somewhere between the layoffs and the moves, the divorces and the rejections, the dreams that shrunk just to survive, you stop clapping too. You've done it all. The pivots, the reinventions, the just keep going mantras. You've rebooted your resume, your wardrobe, your personality. You've switched cities, switched careers, swallowed your pride, begged for chances, and accepted less than you deserve just to keep a roof. And now you're tired. Not lazy, not weak, just tired. Because starting over is sold as bravery, but it feels like punishment when it's not a choice. When you're forced to hit reset every few years while others get to coast. When you watch the privileged skip the struggle and still stay ahead. Add AI into the mix and you can see it. The race isn't fair. It's barely human anymore. They say adapt or die, but what they really mean is burn out faster or be left behind. And when you hear about a place for peace, it's not a cry for help. It's a whisper of relief. No more bootstraps, no more resumes, no more grinding. Just rest. This chapter is for the ones who've tried again and again, who've rebuilt their lives more times than they can count, each time with less energy, fewer resources, and more fear. It's not that you can't start over, it's that you don't want to anymore. And in a world that only celebrates the comeback, no one talks about the cost of the crash. So if you're done rebuilding, that's okay. You don't owe anyone another version of you. Sometimes peace isn't quitting, it's finishing. Chapter 7. No one would notice anyway. Some people go quietly because they've been invisible for years. Others go because the people who say they love them only do say it when it's convenient. You stop showing up. You stop calling. You stop being the one who reaches out. And no one checks in. At first it stings, then it settles, then it starts to feel normal. Being invisible doesn't mean you're alone. It means you've been erased from people's to-do lists. Not maliciously, just conveniently. Out of sight, out of bandwidth. And for others, you're not invisible, you're a burden. You're sleeping on their couch, using their shower, eating their groceries. They tell you it's fine, but the silence between the words says otherwise. You start hearing it in their tone, seeing it in their eyes, feeling it in the way they stop asking how you're doing. So when you say, I've been thinking about going to a place for peace, they don't argue. Not really. They might cry, they might beg, but deep down they'll understand because they're tired too. Tired of carrying you, tired of not having answers, tired of feeling responsible for someone who's just trying to survive. This chapter is for the ones who drifted from their friends, who stopped getting invited, who live in other people's spaces, grateful and ashamed at the same time. It's for the ones who aren't angry, just used to being left out. And when no one notices your absence, it's easier to imagine your exit. Not because you want to hurt anyone, but because you finally want to stop being the problem in someone else's life. The truth is, someone might notice. Someone might miss you. Someone might cry hard enough to shake. But if you're sleeping on their couch, sharing their fridge, tiptoeing through their home like a ghost, it's hard to believe you're anything more than tolerated. And tolerance is not a life. So maybe, just maybe, a place for peace doesn't sound selfish. It sounds merciful. For everyone. Chapter 8. The feed made me numb. There's too much to feel, so you stop feeling anything. It's all noise now. Scroll, like scroll, forget. You wake up and reach for your phone before you even know what day it is. Scroll? War, ad, dance, quote, suicide, meme, shooting, brunch, scroll. At first it was just for news. Then for connection, then it became the place you went to escape, only to realize it's where you've been drowning. Everything's urgent, everything's tragic, everything's a punchline. You go from crying at a story about a lost child to laughing at a dog in sunglasses in 3 seconds flat. Your brain doesn't even get time to feel it before the next one hits. So you stop feeling, you just scroll, looking for that one post, that one quote, that one voice that reminds you you're not crazy, that you're not broken, that you're not completely alone. You hit like on things that make you sad. You share quotes you don't live by. You leave fire emojis on lives that are falling apart behind the grid, and you feel nothing. Not because you don't care, but because you cared too much for too long. And now you're numb. This chapter is for the ones who live online because offline feels worse. You watch lives improve, money grow, bodies glow, and wonder how everyone else figured it out. You're told to unplug, but unplugging feels like disappearing. So you scroll instead until the feed becomes your nervous system. You try to post something real, something raw, but it doesn't work. So you delete it and you go back to watching, back to feeling like you're falling behind in a race you didn't sign up for. So when you hear about a place for peace, it doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like stepping away from a screen that never loved you back. It feels like permission to stop performing. No filters, no likes, no more. You're not looking for attention. You're looking for quiet. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most human thing you felt in years. Chapter 9. I don't want to burden them anymore. You don't want to be the reason they sigh, the weight they carry, the thing they love but secretly wish was easier. This chapter is for the ones who love too deeply to keep asking for help. The 40-year-old who moved back in with their mother because rent in the city costs more than their whole paycheck. The mother tries to smile, cook, make room, but she's tired. She's got her own meds, her own bills, her own fears, and every time you open the fridge, you hear the guilt. This is for the disabled person who waits too long to ask for help getting to the bathroom, who pretends they're fine because asking takes energy, because they already heard their partner groan once this morning and they don't want to make it twice. This is for the 80-year-old whose memories are slipping like soap in the shower, who once led meetings, raised children, paid mortgages, and now struggles to remember how to use the microwave. Their kids smile and hug them and reassure them, but everyone sees the cracks, and the elder sees them too. You start to feel like a task, a chore, a line on someone's to-do list, and that's not how you want to be remembered. So when you hear about a place for peace, it doesn't sound like defeat. It sounds like love. It sounds like finally giving the people around you what they can't ask for, relief. Not because they don't care, but because they do. This chapter is about dignity. It's about not wanting to keep handing your struggle to the people you adore. It's not selfish to say they deserve to rest too. It's not wrong to want your final act to be letting go so they can breathe. You've done your part. You've tried. You've held on through pain, silence, aging, regret, limitations. You don't want pity, you want peace. You want to say goodbye while you still remember their names, while you can still stand on your own, even if it's just emotionally. A place for peace doesn't mean no one loved you. It means you loved them enough not to stay longer than you could carry yourself. That kind of love is quiet and powerful and enough. Chapter 10, The Rapture Hasn't Come. They said he'd be back any day now, but the calendar flipped again, and you're still here. This chapter is for the ones who stayed because they were waiting for the clouds to part, for the trumpets, for the call home, for Jesus to return and make everything right. You believed, you prayed, you repented, you tried. You forgave the world when it didn't deserve it. You held on when everything else told you to let go, because you were promised something greater. And here you are, still waiting, decades later, still broke, still sick, still alone, still holding your breath for the miracle. This isn't about mocking faith. Faith is powerful. It can lift, guide, heal. But faith without movement becomes paralysis. And sometimes what you were told was hope starts to feel like spiritual gaslighting. You look around and wonder, if the rapture already happened, what does that make the rest of us? Leftovers? Where are the jobs for the faithful but unemployed? Where is the housing for the broken but believing? Where is the support for the ones who waited instead of planning? Some people are still holding on, not because they want to live, but because they were told it's a sin not to, because they fear being judged for giving up, because they don't want to be the reason they missed the final ticket home. But what if Jesus isn't coming back? What if he was the hope we needed to survive something unbearable, and now that we're still here, the burden has shifted? What if it's been 2,000 years and the silence is the answer? This chapter is for the faithful who feel forgotten, for the devout who wonder what happens when prayers don't pay the rent. You're not broken, you're not faithless, you're not cursed, you're just human. And even God would understand if you were tired of waiting. If the rapture hasn't come, maybe that doesn't mean you were left behind. Maybe it means you're still here to write your own ending. And a place for peace is not rebellion, it's not betrayal, it's just your choice. And after everything you've carried, you've earned that. Chapter 11, Leaving You Behind. This isn't about not loving you. This is about being too tired to keep proving it. Some people think leaving means you've given up on everyone you love. But love isn't the issue. Survival is. You love your kids, your partner, your best friend. You'd take a bullet for them. But at some point, the weight of pretending you're okay for them becomes the bullet. You don't want to disappoint them, but you're already disappointing yourself every day when you check your empty bank account, when you tell your kid maybe next month again, when your phone vibrates with payment reminders you'll ignore until they shut something off. The car's 3 months behind. The lights flicker. You're eating less so they can eat more. And every job you apply to feels like sending a message into the void. They say you need experience. They say you're overqualified. They say nothing at all. So you're not choosing peace because you stopped caring. You're choosing peace because you cared too long. There's nothing left to sell, nothing left to hustle. You're not even at a crossroads. You're at the dead end after too many wrong turns. Some people don't understand that, but the ones who've been here will. So if you're thinking about leaving, say what you need to say. Say, I love you. Say, this wasn't your fault. Say, I waited as long as I could. Say, I'm finally going somewhere that doesn't ask me to be anything but still. You're not running away. You're not giving up. You're letting go. And if they really love you, they'll know it wasn't about abandoning them. It was about not abandoning yourself anymore. And maybe one day they'll understand that too. Chapter 12, Sentenced to Survive. Some people never got the chance to live free. And when freedom finally arrives, it often comes too late. This chapter is for the prisoners, not the ones we imagine in headlines, but the ones who've been forgotten, who went in at 19 and won't get out until 64. The ones who were told they'll die behind bars, the ones who did their time, served their sentence, and are now staring down the long tunnel of freedom with no flashlight. Let's be honest, for many, getting out doesn't mean getting free. It means sleeping on a borrowed couch in a family member's living room who doesn't really want you there. It means being told you have to get a job, but the job applications won't look past your record. It means watching younger people get opportunities that were denied to you for decades. It means carrying the shame of a past you already paid for. And when you try to start over, it's like asking the world to forgive you for breathing. Some prisoners die inside without ever seeing the sky. Others walk out with nothing waiting for them but judgment and rejection. They're told they're free, but they know the truth. The sentence never ends. They're not dangerous, they're discarded. So when a place for peace is offered, some don't see it as suicide. They see it as dignity. Because for them, peace isn't dying in a cell. Peace is being allowed to say, I've served enough. I'm tired. Let me go. And yes, the state should pay for that. Because the state built the system that stripped them of their time, their choices, their humanity. And if the system can pay to keep someone alive in a cage for 50 years, it can pay for a bed, a counselor, a final meal, and a painless goodbye. Not as an escape, not as punishment, but as a right for the forgotten. Let them go without violence. Let them go without judgment. Let them go without forcing them to beg for love that was never going to come. Some people don't need parole. They need permission to leave the earth gently, not because they hate life, but because they were never given the chance to live it in the first place. Chapter 13. I just want permission to go. Not forgiveness, not pity, not a pep talk, just permission. This chapter isn't for the ones who still believe. It's for the ones who've been holding on too long. We live in a world where people can terminate a pregnancy and it's called choice. Yet if someone wants to end their own life, it's called selfish. But you are not selfish. You've tried. You've hoped. You've waited for better. You've done the right things, read the right books, prayed the right prayers, and still the darkness doesn't lift. You don't hate life. You just don't see a place for yourself in it anymore. And that's a hard truth people don't want to hear, because if they admit it, they have to stop pretending that every life is designed to bloom, that every pain is temporary, that every story has a redemptive arc. Some stories don't. Some people don't get their comeback, and that shouldn't make them wrong, or broken, or criminal, or damned. This chapter is for the people who are simply tired. Tired in a way sleep doesn't fix, tired in their bones, tired in their spirit, tired of being told to keep fighting when they know they're already out of rounds. You don't need a reason that fits in a tweet. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't have to prove your suffering to people who've never felt it. You just want permission to go. Not violently, not in chaos, not in shame, just quietly. You want to close your eyes without fear, to exhale without the weight of another tomorrow, to choose peace in a world that only ever gave you pressure. And that's not failure, that's a decision. No one blames the person who lets go of the rope when their hands are bloody. You're not weak, you're not giving up, you're just done. And that's okay. If no one else has said it, let this chapter say it for them. You have permission not to die, but to choose. And whatever you choose next, let it be yours. Let it be free. Let it be peaceful. About the author Steph Wynn. Steph Wynn is a storyteller, entrepreneur, survivor, and straight talk teacher. With over 30 books written on real-life topics, from financial survival to personal growth, Steph writes for people who need truth, not trends. A lifelong learner, Steph didn't start out as a writer, but life had other plans. Through years of building businesses, working with clients, traveling the world, surviving setbacks, and overcoming debt, writing became a way to document wisdom for the next generation. Steph believes in keeping it real about money, mindset, mistakes, and moving forward. Her mission is simple: help people wake up, stay free, and live life on their own terms, with peace over payments, cash over clout, and freedom over flexing. If she has one wish, it's that her words will still be read 100 years from now. Steph lives in Los Angeles, California, still learning, still creating, still living life her way. Find all her books here. http www.amazon.com, author Steph Wynn. Thank you for reading. Stay smart, stay free, stay you.